Did we get?
Yes.
I'd like to call the City of Lafayette Common Council to order for their regular meeting, September the 4th. Excuse me. Look at them all standing. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'll stand. I'd like you to pledge allegiance to our country's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk please conduct a roll call?
Heidi?
Here.
Clinker?
Here.
Myers?
Here.
Reynolds?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Allersmeyer? Here. Williamson?
Here.
Downing?
Here.
Campbell?
Here.
Quorum present.
I would like to entertain a motion to recess the Common Council for the purpose of a public hearing on Ordinance 2013-24. Mrs. Williams.
So moved.
Second. Wow.
Indians and I are.
Yeah, oh, boy. I wish those kids would behave in the schoolhouse when I had them like you did. Is there any public input on this particular ordinance? There being none, I would entertain a motion to reconvene for the purpose.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
We have another public.
Apparently. Okay. Will you remove your motion?
Oh, no, I will remove my motion.
Thank you. There is a second public hearing for Ordinance 2013, a ordinance to vacate a portion of the public way in the City of Lafayette for the Purdue Federal and Credit Union.
Okay, that's
Any input by members of the community?
How would you like my motion? Okay. So moved. Reconvene.
Thank you. You have received the minutes of the August 5th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes? I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as communicated. Mr. Heidi?
Make the motion to accept.
Thank you. Mr. Brown? Second. Thank you. Presentation and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
Reports of the city offices.
Police Department Annual Report 2012, Police Department Monthly June, Clerk's Office Monthly July and August, Fleet Maintenance Department Monthly July, Waterworks Department Monthly July, and Water Pollution Control Department Monthly July.
Those reports are available for your examination in the clerk's office during the hours of operation in the clerk's office, if you'd like to read those. Ordinances for second reading.
Ordinance 2013-23, an amendment to Ordinance number 2010-11, establishing local Columbia Street Historic District in the City of Lafayette, Indiana, 811 Columbia Street.
Mr. Meyer.
Move for passage of Ordinance 2013-23.
Mr. Reynolds.
Second.
Any comments by members of the Common Council? I think that, Mr. Meyer, you have some part of this.
Yes, this came through the Historic District Preservation Commission. It is a single residence, and it was proposed because it's part of their funding mechanism. As a condition of the funding that they were receiving, they agreed to voluntarily become a historic district, and so it passed unanimously by the commission, and we, with a recommendation that the City Council approve it.
Any other comments by members of the Common Council? Yes, ma'am.
Amy Jacobson, Community Development Director. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Anyone have any questions of Ms. Jacobson? None? Thank you. Any comments by members of the audience? None? Would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on Ordinance 2013-23?
Heidi?
Aye.
Blinker?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Ordinance 2013-24.
An ordinance to vacate a portion of public way in the City of Lafayette, Indiana. Bob Rorman, Auto Group petitioner.
Now, I've been advised by the council that this is to be continued.
I think that
I think the petitioner's here and has indicated that he wants to continue the vacation because there's actually been an entire new plan drawn up, and it's going in front of the Area Plan Commission for rezoning, and it would be appropriate to consider this vacation after a zoning has successfully gone through the area plan. Otherwise, the vacation becomes a little bit moot, or at least needs to wait until the plan's confirmed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Joe Bonneberg with Ball Eggleston. I represent the Rorman interest. I have representatives of the Rorman interest here with me this evening, but Ed has very generally explained there has been considerable negotiation going on, and each of you in front of you has the newest drawing, which is really hot off the press, that shows the product, if you will, of some negotiation. As I understand it, this drawing is the product of some negotiations that the mayor has had with neighbors. Mr. Foley of the engineer's office has been tremendously cooperative, and our construction manager in this whole process, Mr. Espinez, and they've all put this thing together that you see as a way to try to address issues that have been generally raised by the neighbors in the area to make even what I think of as a better plan. Those older plans had several issues that are now addressed in this particular document, and if we were to take and understand that the north part of the Rorman piece here, where the parking lot is subject to a rezoning, and that is already on file and will come down the pike in the timelines, then we could put it together so that the vacation and the rezoning, should it get here, could all occur at one meeting, and the discussions could all kind of take place at the same time. And it sounds to me like a much more productive way to address the whole matter. And so Ed's suggestion that you continue this until that would be the October meeting of the City Council, would it not?
Your rezoning is scheduled for the September APC?
Yeah, we're scheduled for this month's rezoning, and that would put us into the October meeting. So I think that's the date line that would work, and your suggestion is well taken, and we would agree to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bonneberg. Ordinances for more?
He'd have a motion to table.
Oh, good deal.
To
Yeah.
next.
I make a motion that we table this
Good.
until it goes to here.
Mr. Clinker. Second. Very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Could the record show that I abstained from that? Thank you.
Good. Ordinance 2013-25.
In order to vacate a portion of the public way in the city of Lafayette, Indiana, Purdue Federal Credit Union, City of Lafayette petitioners.
What is the pleasure of the council? Mr. Downing?
I move to hear ordinance 2013-25 and pass on the second reading.
Second. Any comments by members? Yes, sir.
Mr. Council, or Mr. Campbell, due to a conflict, I would ask that the record show that I would be excused from participating in the discussions on this ordinance and the next ordinance, 2013-26.
Very good. The clerk would make that notation.
And I have a conflict on this one only, where I will abstain from vote.
Be excused.
Oh, all right, I'll do that too.
Anybody else
You
want
got
to?
me.
Discussion by members of the Common Council. Anybody in the audience wish to address this particular ordinance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Joe Bonneberg with Paul Eggleston. I represent the credit union here this evening. I have representatives, including the president of the credit union here, should you desire to ask Bob any questions about this project. This is a project that is designed to redo and bring, if you will, into a more effective use all of our parking areas and do a remodeling on the building, which all of you would, I'm sure, recall is at 18th and Erie. This is a $1 million project that will add to the whole neighborhood in this particular area. When we started this project and we started looking at the old plat maps and everything, we discovered some really interesting kinds of things. 16th Street, which is shows on the plats at any rate, has parts of the fire station built on it. This particular alley, the end of this alley, which would permit ingress and egress from Erie Street, is currently being used appropriately, I think, because they need it by the fire department as a parking lot. And we have contacted and communicated with the only other two owners in the area, St. Elizabeth and Blueprint Specialties, and as we stand here tonight, they are both agreeable to what we are doing because they see this as a benefit to the neighborhood. This is kind of an interesting joint petition. The city has joined us in this. Mr. Chosnick and I, when we looked at the maps, concluded that there had to be some cleanup of this problem of the parking lot and the alley. We decided to leave the 16th Street issue as that proverbial sleeping dog in this thing, because it could have created no end of extra legal grief for everybody. So that's not going to be there. We have reviewed our records on this particular area and find that we entered into this neighborhood in about 1988, and since that time, all of the work that's been done on this alley, including digging it up, putting in a new base, the oiling the top, from that point on, fixing the potholes, the cracks, doing all this, has fallen into the desires of PEFCU to do it and have it done. And so they've done that. So all the repair and maintenance for all of those years has been done by the credit union. We went back and, to the best we could determine at this point, they have spent in excess of $10,000 just working on this particular alley and maintaining it so that the use for everybody would be satisfactory. The alley at this point, since it's cut off, essentially serves no public benefit. It serves benefit to the credit union. It also serves the benefit of providing the fire department with an appropriate parking lot. Like I say, we have maintained this alley. This project will serve to enhance both the city tax base and the neighborhood, and we would respectfully request that you grant us a vacation of this particular alley so that this project can go forward. Thank you.
Council have any questions? Mr. Downing?
Mr. Bungelberg, will that telephone pole be gone?
No, not yet.
Telephone pole stay?
No, we're going to have to work around that, but that's an engineering problem that we will look to. The fact of the matter is, under the law, all the easements and everything that belong to utilities are not affected by a vacation. They all just stay where they are. But you're right, that is in an uncomfortable place, and rather than have a lawyer design ways out of that, I'm going to defer that one and let the engineers do it. Yes, Mr. Brown.
Upon granting of this vacation, will the fire department still have access to park back there?
Oh, yeah, sure. Their access to their parking lot is off of Erie Street.
That portion of the vacation will actually go to the city of Lafayette for
Yeah.
only but be owned by the city of Lafayette. That's through the middle of the parking lot.
Other questions?
Thank you.
The audience wishes to address this particular. And 13-26. No, excuse me. 25.
Heidi,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Allersmeyer,
Aye.
Williamson,
Aye.
Downey.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 6-0.
Thank you. Mr. Heidi, would you ask Mr. Clinker to come back in, please? No. Ordinances for first reading.
Ordinance 2013-26, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana to rezone certain real estate from I-3 to GB, 2800 Duncan Road, Aspen, Lafayette Partners petitioner.
Any members of the Common Council wish to address this particular ordinance?
I
Yes,
move
ma'am.
we hear and consider ordinance 2013-26.
Better, yeah, thank you.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Williamson, thank you. Any comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Rumbleburn?
For the record, I'm Joe Bumbleberg with Paul Eggleston. I represent the Aspen Company, who is the petitioner here. This is an excellent underused building on 11.158 acres, immediately west of a 37.52 acre tract that was rezoned by this Common Council last spring. The Enoch piece immediately across Duncan Road was rezoned from I-3 to GB. Same thing that Mr. Sachs and his investment people are asking you to do with this particular piece. The problem with this piece of property is that leasing it out as an I-3 use is simply not occurring. The petitioner has 50,000, I'm told, square feet of empty space in the building. And the Shook Agency has been trying for 2 years to market this stuff as in an I-3 zone. About 1/3 of this building then is unleased. There are, if you look at the area plan staff report for Enoch and this one, while there are some differences in it, the facts of the matter is that the reasons for the rezoning next door and this one are the same. The Shook Agency, which has been trying to sell this, says in a letter to my client, we feel that if the property were zoned general business instead of heavy manufacturing industrial 3, we would have more consideration from office and laboratory leasing prospects, and therefore more opportunity to lease the available space. So the rental experts tell us that the I-3 is just simply not working, and indeed, when I did the other one in the spring, that's exactly what I told you about that particular area too. It just wasn't working. The Enoch people were going to build a building and revise some of their area, and the industrial zoning category simply was not working. So in this case, to make this thing work, we need the city council to make this piece of property a general business piece. Thank you.
Any comments by Mr. Downing?
If a nonprofit group bought this place, the city would lose all the tax revenue?
If they bought the building,
Yeah, if they bought that.
I've never seen any indication that that's part of it. This building has a tenant in it for part of it, the Siemens, and my client, I presume, is getting some rent for that. So if there's a sale pending out there, I don't know about it.
Well, I don't either, except I'd heard one time a church was planning on going in there, and I'd heard that.
That was discussed. The church, several years ago when that was discussed, would have been a tenant in the building. Quite candidly, I've read some case law recently that would suggest that when you split buildings like that, you create situations where, at least in one county in the state of Indiana, there is no exemption. So, right now we're at the mercy of assessors and maybe even court cases coming up to the tax court.
But if they did buy it, the city would lose?
Well, I guess if they did buy it, that's
I understand.
Or donated.
or donated or something. I guess depends on what the uses are. If Siemens were to stay there, I would think that the assessor would still be assessing that part of the land and the building as business use. And so as long as there's a business use in the building, I think at least part of it, and maybe all of it might stay on the tax rolls. So I can't definitively give you an answer.
Understand.
Any other questions? Mr. Clinker?
There's a line in the staff report that I've noticed here. It says it's not changed significantly in its character, function, or land use. And I took a tour of that building when they had an open house years ago, and it was really, it seemed like it was special. I mean, it could really be used for something industrial and have a shovel-ready space here in town, which we always like shovel-ready. So when you say the neighbors, the Enoch building, it's a totally different structure of the building, right? I mean, there's no manufacturing area really, is there? It's more office space, isn't it, on the Enoch?
Which one are you talking
about? The Enoch building.
Well, the Enoch building has people in there doing lab kind of work, that kind of things that qualify under the general business. So.
But it's more individual room. It's not like the character of that building where they have the large manufacturing
Well, we got 50,000
space.
empty square feet. One would assume that in this building, if somebody came in with a use, that 50,000 might be leased in whole, in part, and that they would then do some remodeling inside to make it useful. I can't predict on that because you can only tell if you know what the use is going to be.
I guess where I'm not comfortable is that even though they are next door and they could be marketed similarly, the character, function, and land use seems like it would be very different between the two.
Well, that may be your view, but I'll tell you what, that's certainly not the view of our experts who are trying to rent this thing.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as this sits in a TIF district and the possibilities of losing some of the assessed value if this went to a non-for-profit, is there, you don't know that it's going to be sold, or you don't know that, you don't have any idea. You're just
all I know right now is he's got it in the hands of Chuck, and they're trying to lease the thing to get people in there who will pay rent.
Just lease it, not
That's
sell.
right. Not sell. That's right.
Since there seems to be concern about that the TIF district is supposed to recover that money and there should be tax generating, could they market it, and if there was a general business use, then come back for this rezone and say, here's what is coming in here, could you help us with general business? I mean, they could market it on the...
People are very cautious about signing leases.
Well,
to commit themselves to a piece of property on the thought that it might get rezoned.
Right, but you wouldn't have to sign the lease. You could say, let's take it to the council and see if they would sign the...
All that does is defer the whole process. And in this business of leasing, what we're knowing right now is the longer we sit, the more money he loses.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments by members of the Common Council? Thank you, Mr. Mumble.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to address this particular ordinance? Sure, if you'd like.
I want to speak. Should. I understand what Mr. Bumbleberg has said. I mean, I think tonight maybe we have his client's interests and ours aren't exactly the same, and I know he can't speak for his client and nobody can predict the future. But it is in an area where a significant bond issue was issued. There's still millions of dollars that's still owed on that. The risk of if that would go into a use that we wouldn't generate that income could pose a significant financial burden on the city of Lafayette and the other taxpayers in the area because we'll have to make the bond payment. I hate to give up on the building. I mean, I know we've been through a period of recession in the country. We all know that. I think manufacturing is coming back. I think we're getting more looks at our community now than we ever did get before in the last several years. Lots of people are looking at the community. The reality is, and Mr. Bumbleberg and I have a great relationship, but I mean, they've talked to me before about where that building could be donated to a church, and a church could go in there, and there was a talk of donation to a church. And the risk to the city and the city's finances are just too great. I just do not think that it's a good idea. And if there is a use, even though it may slow down the process, I know that with all the attorneys sitting here in this room, we've done it before where they've had a potential client that was looking at a rezoning, and we have went through it because we knew what it was, and maybe a little slower, but it does work. And I think sometimes you have to be prudent in what you do in the direction that we take, because we have to look at the finances of the whole city and all the taxpayers and all the people that are involved and how that's all fits together for all city operations and making bond payments. And so, this evening, I just don't think the long-term interests of the city right now match up with the interest of this rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other comments by members of the audience? There being none, would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-26?
Heidi,
No.
Clinker,
No.
Reynolds,
No.
Brown,
No.
Allersmeyer,
No.
Williamson,
No.
Downey.
No.
Ordinance fails,
Thank you.
0-7.
Ordinance 2013-28. Yeah, we better,
Yeah, we might. Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Ordinance
Mr.
2013
Teeter's waiting for you.
-27, an ordinance to amend the zoning order to Tippecanoe County, Indiana, rezone certain real estate from NB to GB, 3613 South 18th Street, D&D LLC petitioner.
Any comments by members of the Common Council? Yes, sir.
Move to consider the
Good.
ordinance on first reading.
Oh, he's back.
Second.
He came back at the right time.
I second.
Oh, thank you.
I'll second.
Good. Mr. Teeter.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Dan Teeter, attorney of Riding Teeter and Schreier, represent the petitioner. Doug Anderson is here this evening as the petitioner's representative, would respond to any questions that you might have. We're requesting rezone to GB. We received a favorable staff recommendation. We had a unanimous area plan commission vote as well on this matter. This is a 12,600 square foot strip center on South 18th Street and Troxel Drive, just north of Veterans Memorial Parkway. You might know it because it has the Pizza King in it. It's a good location for that as well. We also have an insurance agency, a fitness center, hair salon in it, another restaurant in it as well. The strip was built in 1998, and when that was built, it's hard to believe, but everything out there was farm ground at that time. It was all in corn, as I recall, so developers took quite a leap, I think, to do that. At that time, it was also zoned LB. The ordinance has since changed it to NB. And much of the ground since that time around it to the north, which has a storage facility in it, and to the south, which has a car wash in it, is zoned GB as well as much of Veterans Memorial Parkway is zoned GB as well. We have a vacant space in the center. It was a dry cleaner that was in there. It's been vacant for a little over 2 years. We've tried desperately to re-rent it since that time, have been unable to at this point. We have a young veterinarian that's moved to the community, and she wants to rent that space very much. We desperately would like to rent it to her, but on the ordinance, in order to do so, it has to be zoned GB. We have no objections from any of the surrounding property owners, and we would respectfully request your favorable approval of this matter. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. Mr. King.
Dan, just as a general question, I know the staff report says that by changing to GB, it will allow the veterinarian office.
That's correct.
What other uses, though, would be allowed that would not be allowed in the NB? What are we opening it up to?
I guess I did not look at the ordinance again tonight. I normally do that on the GB. Didn't think that question would necessarily come up for the simple reason that this one has already been built. I mean, if you were looking at a new one, yes, maybe there's some uses in there that you wouldn't like, some adult entertainment. It's just something I don't think that can happen with the facility already built. With, I think, Pizza King has over a 10-year lease on it. The insurance place is close to that, so we have many long-term tenants in there. The facilities then, other than that, are much smaller spaces meant for veterinarian, meant for office-type space. I don't think it works well for a bar type of thing that could go in there. So I just don't see that as a possibility. Those things would be allowed in GB, but that's not the intent of the owners. Hasn't been since 1998. It's never been in there, so I don't anticipate that happening in the future.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question. Sally's here tonight from Area Plan. It doesn't have to be medical and maybe you can answer some of Steve's questions for the GB uses too, if you have them handy. But the vet offices don't have to be medical, MR1, MR, what is it?
No, veterinarian offices do not.
All other doctors' offices do, or could they go in GB too?
Yeah, I think they're also permitted in GB. They may even be permitted in NB, but I don't remember that specifically. Yeah, and I think even I think eating and drinking establishments are also permitted in NB as well as GB. So that could happen right now.
This is I'm trying to think of a delicate way to ask this. Is there area enough around the facility to, shall we say, walk the animals that are... I'm anticipating calls, so I just wanted to say, is there space for the animals to be that's not going to bother...
Our area, either in NB or GB, is underbuilt for the size of the lot. I can't tell you exactly how many acres are on that lot, but it's a very large lot compared to the building that could go on it. So we're underbuilt.
But there's grassy
There's a lot of grass out in front and on the side.
Okay.
But the veterinarian, she indicated there's no overnight, that's not the intent of it. The only exception to that would be if it was an emergency where somebody brought a dog in and they had to take a look at it overnight. But other than that, no, it's where you come in, she takes a look at the pet and does whatever and sends you home after you've paid the bill and you go on your way.
So it's all small animals.
Yeah, I haven't asked her specifically whether she came from Purdue and could also do large animal, but I think it's unlikely that we'll have any mules or jackasses, things of that nature.
You're bringing bossy in.
Do air handling systems have to be separate for any veterinarian? Like if you have a restaurant and if it's all in a strip mall and connected building?
Well, in order to build in there, they're going to have to get a building permit, so we're going to go through the engineer's office, and yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Any questions or comments by members of the audience? There being none, would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-27?
Heidi?
Aye.
Blinker?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Ordinance 2013-28.
In order to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, to rezone certain real estate from GD, NB, R3, R1, and R3 Area Planning Commission.
Salzmeyer, will you,
I move to hear and consider ordinance 2013-28.
Mr. Brown?
Second.
Thank you. Sally, what are we doing?
Well, I have a...
Easily understood.
Coach, you doing all right?
It's not very often when I get to come before you as a petitioner in a rezoning case, but this is one of those. The reason for this rezoning request made by the Plan Commission comes out of a promise made back in 1998 when the current zoning ordinance was adopted. That ordinance from that point on, prohibited the construction of apartment complexes in business zoning districts. And the reason for that was, while that might be an income-producing property and a business for the landowner. From a land use point of view, we feel that it's a place where people live, and so it should be in a residential zoning district, not have the possibility of being surrounded by other businesses. So at the time, we promised, made a general promise that at some point in the future we would apply for and seek approval for these non-conforming apartment complexes to be made conforming through rezoning to R3. We sort of put it off because it didn't seem like a big deal, and then last winter I got a phone call from one of these apartment complex owners who said, "You know that project you were going to do for us a long time ago?" He said, "Would you consider putting that higher up on your work list?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we started in on this. There were actually more apartment complexes than these 8 in Lafayette. There are 3 that just went through the process in unincorporated Tippecanoe County, and in fact there were others. So we started this by sending a letter to all the property owners and saying, this is what we're working on. If you want to keep your business zoning, then please let us know that you want to opt out of the rezoning. And there were several who decided to do that. I think largely they were people who thought that their complexes were probably coming to, the useful end of their apartment life, and that when that property redevelops, they'd rather redevelop it using the commercial zoning. So this is the location of all the 8 properties that you're hearing tonight. Okay, this is the first one. It's on Greenbush Street, east of US 52. It's the Chauncey Village Apartments. You'll see some of it was zoned R3, some of it was zoned general business. And, oops. So here it is on the aerial photograph. You can see that it's actually one of the newer of these apartment complexes. The next one is on Erie Street. This is just a single property zoned general business, and it has 1 apartment building on it, and its neighbors are all residential. This is Portledge Commons, and it's on the north side of Cason Street. It also slightly abuts Earl Avenue. It's also zoned general business, and there's that complex. This is 1 building across 2 lots on 31st Street. This is I don't know if this has a name. We did not discover a name for this, but it is on the north side of McCarty Lane, and it's just east of Creasy. The general business to the west is that little corner shopping center with a gas station on the corner. It's 3 buildings. This is maybe the oddest one. This is a portion of Country Charm. We actually, when we started this, we thought that more of this apartment complex was in the GB zone, but it actually turned out that just its parking lot, or one of its parking lots, is in the GB zone, but it does make sense that the entire project have 1 zoning, so that's why we continue to include this one. This is Shoshone Apartments south of Teal Road in the area of Jeff High School, and Osage Court actually goes up through the middle of the 2 lots, 2 buildings. And then this one also has a slightly different history. This is Sun Villas Apartments. It was zoned R3, and if you recall, a number of years ago, after you did some annexations in the southwest part of the city, we created a new zoning map for the southwest, called Southwest Lafayette. And somehow in creating that new zoning map, which then we had you adopt, this property, R3 zoning went away and became zoned R1. So this one is a little different, but it was clearly a mapping error that we made, so we're correcting this one at the same time. Hitting the wrong button. Sorry. All right.
Sally, can you bring that one back from Teal Road? So I
Yes.
can see that.
The Shoshone one?
Pardon me?
The Shoshone one?
One on Teal Road, 22nd Street, and across from Jeff High School.
There's the location.
That is on Teal Road, or
No, it is not directly on Teal Road.
what's there now? Is that Georgetown Apartments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and that Georgetown's right across the street from them.
Yeah. This is behind the, I think that used to be the Farm Credit Building.
Right.
Hugh Bank.
Or PEF, yeah, right.
Good. Super. Sorry to hold you up there, Robert.
Thought maybe you're looking for something on Gregory's Court.
It was Gregory's Court.
30.
Any questions or comments by members of the Common Council? I guess I would have one question, Sally. That Ekman, is that where there was a problem with a street going through or something? And
Yeah, actually, that question was asked at the Plan Commission, and I had to laugh because it's one of the very first controversies I encountered many years ago when I was a very young, inexperienced planner. There is a public street that goes through there, and it is a public street on both sides. But the neighborhood to the east decided they weren't too keen on an apartment complex as their neighbor. They petitioned City Council, which put up a barrier, concrete barrier in the middle of the public street, and I'm assuming it's still that way today.
I think it is. Yeah.
But it is still a public street on both sides. It's just there's a barrier that prevents movement between the two sides of the street.
But I think there is, isn't there a way the fire department or emergency vehicles can go through there or something?
Well, I believe the chief at the time said they got to get through if there's a train blocking that street, that they would run right over that with the front of the vehicle.
Yeah, well, then you repair the truck, I can tell you that. It's not a,
Thanks, Steve.
it's a pretty steady barrier.
Yeah, I've in fact been recently involved in this barrier, so it is able to be accessed by emergency vehicles, but just not public traffic.
It's, in my opinion hasn't changed in 30 years. I don't think it's very safe, and I don't think it's a very smart thing to do for connectivity between parts of the city, but that's just one person's opinion.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Members of the audience wish to address this ordinance? There being none, would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-28?
Heidi,
Aye.
Clinker.
Aye.
Myers.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Ordinance 2013-29.
An ordinance to vacate a portion of the public right-of-way in the city of Lafayette, Indiana. Larry Keller petition a portion of land to the right of 1001 Queen Street.
Mr. Chaucer.
What, I think what I'd like to suggest is have somebody move to hear it. I'll move in
Very good.
and I'll go
Mr.
ahead.
Meyer.
Move to consider ordinance 2013-29.
Mr. Reynolds.
Second.
Mr. Chaucer.
I received communication from the Petitioner's Council this morning. There are a couple of issues that he has requested that the ordinance be tabled. One is there's a question as to whether or not the railroad still owns a portion of the adjoining property and whether adequate and proper notice was given to the railroad. The other issue is the one that Mr. Campbell raised at caucus regarding the question of compensation for vacation of a portion of the property, and I believe that he was going to attempt to get a market analysis to see what that half of that street was valued at, to consider talking to his client about actually compensating the city for that value if the portion is vacated. That reason he's requested that the ordinance be tabled.
But now Mr. Downing has caught.
$40 for a yard.
Maybe they can start with that on their evaluation. Thank you.
Tractor bucket.
Okay, then we,
So a motion
we'll
to,
have a motion, Mr. Meyer.
Is it for time certain or uncertain, Ed?
my suggestion would be to table it till next month, and if he doesn't have the stuff ready, you can table it again, but that gives him enough time so that it's not delayed if he can, in fact, get proper notice and information about the value.
Move to table the ordinance then to the next council meeting on October 7th.
Mr. Clinker?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Resolutions, 2014-14.
Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, approving the order of the Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission amending the development plan for the McCarty Economic Development Area.
What's the pleasure of the council? Mrs. Williamson?
I move for passage of resolution 2014-14 on first and final reading.
Mr. Downing? Second. Discussion by members of the Common Council. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director. This resolution is approving the order of the Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission that is amending the McCarty Southeast TIF. This is part of a process to go through to make changes to the TIF plan for that area. Starts out at Redevelopment Commission, goes to the Area Plan Commission, then this body, and then it'll end up, if approved, back to the Redevelopment Commission for final approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Question, Ms. Meyer.
Can you just briefly describe to us what we're amending and what additional projects might be included?
Sure. This is, again, the plan for the Southeast McCarty TIF, and it's a joint TIF between the Tippecanoe County and the City of Lafayette. And there were several projects that both sides have completed since this time, so then we're also looking at new projects as well, too. So on the county side, there were several projects that were completed, such as the extension of McCarty Lane and some other county roads that were upgraded and paved, and some widening and reconstruction projects. And then on the city side, some of the big projects that were completed were some of the SIA projects and Staley South Sanitary Sewer projects, the Ross Road Force Main project, and the Ross Road Lift Station project, and another McCarty Lane regional lift station as well, too. So then the new projects are listed in the resolution, which includes some additional road projects and trail projects and other things that we might do in the coming years.
Is this committing ourselves to doing it, or is just putting it down there as it gives us the opportunity to do it when the money becomes available?
It gives us the opportunity to do this as the money becomes available.
Any other questions of Mr. Carson? Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions or comments by members of the audience? Bob, is this,
It's called modernization, Mr. Campbell. You get rid of your tablet and your pencil.
okay. Would the clerk please conduct a roll call vote on resolution 2014-14?
Heidi,
Aye.
Flinker,
Aye.
Myers,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Allersmeyer,
Aye.
Williamson,
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you. Reports of standing committees. Reports of special committees. Reports of the mayor. Miscellaneous and new business. I understand we've got a comment about compliance by Mr. Carson.
Yes, this is a statement of compliance and benefits for Federated Publications. This actually should have come to the city through the Redevelopment Commission in the beginning, but was actually filed with the county. It started through the county process. They found out there was a mistake that it shouldn't be going through them because of a recent annexation that we did, so then they turned it over to us. Both the county and us did check with the Department of Local Government Finance to make sure everything was okay, and it was fine as long as it was, since it was filed timely in the beginning with the county. They said as long as you take it through the approval process, it would be fine. So if you look on the what was submitted to you, they have met all their goals, and they are compliant.
Any questions about this compliance statement? Thank you.
Thanks.
I assume that it takes no action.
Vote on that? No?
Well, you probably should find that they are in compliance, yeah.
Mark.
Make a motion to state that the council does find that the Federated Publications tax abatement statement is in compliance.
Blanker.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Reports of councilmen. Being none, public comment.
Pearl Speakman, 923 South 22nd Street, Lafayette, Indiana. First of all, I want to say, Cindy, thank you. Your staff is great. The fire department is great. Mike Rouse, Dan Crow, you're great. I just wish it would rub off on some of the other people, including the policemen. You have about 3 policemen that knows about civil rights and equal rights. And I'm not talking about color people. I'm talking about civil rights and equal rights. Don't get me a racist. This city has several ordinances that the policemen turn their head. Yeah, they looked at me because I complained. They say I'm retaliating. What about the woman next door called twice? The fire department had to come out about my fire pit. She ain't no nuisance. What about the people that down the street that calls in little things and they come down? I've only had one incident that there's been any charges filed or been cited. Those charges was dropped August the 12th. So I say to you guys, you're the mayor's boss. You're the policeman's boss. Get your ordinances in order. If you're not going to stand by the ordinances, take them off the books. If you're going to allow these trashy signs to be put out on the street, on the fence post and everywhere else, that's fine. But whenever you start enforcing them against somebody, you're probably going to have trouble. Because Angela's hair shop put the sign out. Ron Campbell should be able to put a sign out. And I don't want to hear it anymore. Your officers in this town says, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to hold you and your wife to higher standards. I'm going to hold them to higher standards. They got to get badge, they got the gun, and they have took an oath of office to do a job. and their job is not to come down and try to tell me that I owe you the picnic table. I got an exercise machine on my porch. It's none of their business what I got on my porch. My property is cleaned up. Now I expect you guys to jump on Ron's lawns and a bunch of other guys, because if not, I'll be back reminding you that you're not doing your job, and you guys are the mayor's boss.
That's not Ron, that's Ron's lawn, sir.
Yeah, it is.
Oh. I will say one thing, Pearl. I asked the city engineer's office about the question of the semi-trailer on the street. And apparently, and you correct me, Bob, if I'm wrong, but the police cannot enforce certain ordinances, that is the responsibility of the city engineer's office. Have I said anything wrong, or should even make the statement instead of me?
Bob Foley, Engineering Department. You said they cannot enforce. I think they can. They have that authority, but it lies on us to do the enforcement on the city ordinances. And we don't run right out and write tickets. We document the situation. We write them a letter, give them a certain time period to correct the violation, and then if they do not comply, then we write a ticket. So that's how that works.
So it has to start with you folks, apparently.
Yes. They could do that. They're not set up to do that. So that's our job.
The question, is it any quicker on the second violation? Yeah, I mean, you send out a letter, it takes 5 to 10 days or something like
Right.
that. Okay, and then they come, and that gets handled, and then they come back and do it again. Are we any quicker the next time on the enforcement of it?
We're not necessarily quicker, but the fines can be higher.
Okay.
Mr. Clinker?
Mr. Speakman had a couple of complaints here that I have some pictures of. Do you know of any of the ones that he's talking about? Are you familiar with the ones he gave me, and if they have received letters?
I'm not familiar with those.
Okay, afterward, can I give you these and see if they could get the letter, if they are indeed in violation?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, you're straining there at the bit.
I'm sorry, Pearl, I can't let this go. Should probably be better, but the reality is Mr. Speakman needs to take care of Mr. Speakman. We've dealt with him for many years. We actually got a court order and had to clean up his property through a court order, so when he says things are dropped, that's not necessarily true. We had to get a judge to sign an order so we could clean up his property. And he told me at the time that it needed cleaned up, that he needed his butt kicked. That's exactly the term that he used to me, and I was very fair with him. Nobody made the decision except me. Mr. Kroll and them went up there. They took the pictures. They brought them back to me, not somebody in the engineer's office, not Stanley, who he doesn't like. And I said, that's good enough, that's not good enough, this needs to be cleaned up. And I set the standard for what needed to be cleaned up. And with all due respect to the council's in charge of finances. They are not my boss. The council I'm the CEO of the city, and I set the standards through the ordinances that you pass, and we administer those. And so that's exactly what we did. I've treated Pearl very fair. As he said, people's tried to treat him fair. He doesn't like the police department. I understand that, but I've treated him fair. I let him keep some of the stuff in his backyard and some of the sheds, and I did what I thought was right that we do for any other citizen in Lafayette. But his continual battle is he tries to find other stuff that everybody else is doing and tries to twist that around through our whole process of policing 70,000 people and 25,000 parcels with one person and one part-time person. And we do a very, very good job of it. We document it very well. We stay on top of it the best we can. And the people in the engineer's office, they do a good job. The police department does a good job. And, you know, we can't control if his neighbors decide to call in. There's been a lot of friction up there, none of which the city caused. I mean, it was caused by him and his neighbors. And so I guess I'm not going to stand here and let some people be belittled in a situation that I don't think is right, and I can tell you, I think Mr. Speakman was treated fairly, and I personally looked at the pictures and made the decisions on what had to be cleaned up and what did not to ensure that there was fairness and that nobody else would take the blame but me. So.
Thank you, Mayor. 1 minute.
First of all, the city did not pay 1 penny to clean my property up. They did not clean my property up. Mr. Rouse and Dan came down. They said what he wanted, he got what he wanted. But when he says the city cleaned my property, that is a very, very mistruth coming out of his mouth. And the guy right across the street from me parks between the curb and sidewalk, and I could play the trump card because he is Afro-American. He parks there, and his policemen don't do a thing about it. So tell me that's fair.
Thank you, Mr. Speakman. Any other comments from members of the audience? Yes, sir.
Lloyd Wells, 3717 Rawlings Drive. I have been watching in the papers, and the city's getting ready to address the moped situation, and I've had a little chat with the mayor about that, and I concur wholeheartedly. We do need to do something about the moped situation, but as I was reading in the paper some of the state law that I read about, and maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be Lafayette law, but anyway, paper was talking about restricting mopeds to bike lanes. If you put a 3-foot bike lane down Greenbush Street, you got an 18-inch strip of concrete and then another 18 inches on the asphalt, means you have to operate one side or the other of that. And that's, let me see you operate a car within 9 inches of one way or the other. It doesn't happen. So we need to think twice before we restrict motorized things to bike lanes. They restricted to a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. How do you feel when someone is in front of you and driving 10 miles an hour below the posted speed limit? What happens inside here to you? I know what happens. I own and operate a moped, and I agree wholeheartedly with what the city is trying to do. I think they do need to be registered. I think they do need to be looked at. But one of the things I think we need to take a look at is it's far safer for the moped rider and everyone concerned if mopeds can move at the flow of traffic rather than impeding the flow of traffic. If they could be required to operate in the right-hand wheel track of the right-hand lane instead of a bicycle lane. They're no different than a motorcycle, really. You wouldn't restrict a motorcycle to a bike lane. They're slower than a motorcycle. That's where the problem exists, not in the speed, it's that they're so slow. I suspect the state came to the 25-mile-an-hour thing because they allowed unlicensed drivers to drive them. Why do we do that? Why do we allow unlicensed drivers to do it? I've had a lot of comments lately. On the back of mine, I have a sign on there that says, "Not drunk, just tight." I'm also green. I'm not using up all my carbon footprint. I'm operating at a lower footprint than most are when I'm operating it. But the point is, I think when we take a look at this, we need to keep an eye with some common sense on what can and cannot expedite the movement of mopeds. They are here to stay, I think, but I really do think we need to register them. It's safer for the person who owns it, because right now, the only thing you need to claim someone's moped is a bill of sale for that number on that moped. That's all you need. There's no title for it. There's no registration. If one's involved in an accident, you don't have any way of identifying that particular moped. I think they should carry liability insurance because they cause damage to things too. If my car has to have liability insurance, why doesn't the moped? I understand there are people that need the moped. It's their only available means of transportation, but I don't think most of those people have gotten in that situation by anybody's actions other than their own. And so I'm all in favor of second chances for people, but anybody that's lost his license has had more than one chance to clean up his act. So I'm not too sympathetic to the individual who does, but I do know they need to get to work. We have public transportation for that. Okay? Thank you.
I guess, I don't know anything about mopeds at this point. I don't know if there's anything on the docket that's coming up, other than what the newspaper says about mopeds. And
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the chief of police is working.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I think at that point in time, then, prior to, you ought to get with the chief of police and give your input, and we'll welcome it when it comes before us. Good. Okay. Thank you.
He's here tonight, so he heard too.
Mr. Heidi?
Wait,
Excuse me. Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
What would it be?
How did I forget you?
Perry Barbie, 37, Redbud. I hope once and for all we can put this dispute between the citizen and the city. I appreciate the mayor coming up. I hate for the mayor had to say what he had to say, but I'm glad he did. Because I think it's time that everybody knows what was going on between, and I feel sorry for the citizen that had to bring his laundry up in front of everybody, but I guess, oh well. Only thing I'm not gonna get on the soapbox tonight. I want all the citizens to remember 2 days from today. 2 days from today will be the 12th anniversary of September 11th, and whatever. I hope everybody stays. However you do prayer or whatever, in a moment of silence, remember everybody on that tragic day, and try to find that old Glory and hang her up this week. I don't have too much to say. Just have a great week.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Brad Talley with Water Pollution Control Department. I just wanted to remind the council that Friday, September 20th, we'll be holding our rain barrel auction. All of the painted rain barrels that you see out in City Hall and around town. We'll have the auction that night at Sylvia's at 7 o'clock. You should have received invitations. If you haven't, just give me a call and we'll get you one. But it should be an exciting night. All the proceeds go towards native plantings and rain gardens throughout the city. So it's a good project for the city.
So they're all live auctions, no silent auctions?
There are live and silent auctions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Talley. Yes, sir. Gentleman there in the front row. Ahead.
Dan Winger, 32 Windy Hill Drive. Just like to bring my thoughts. Seems like we're getting an awful lot of dog bites in the city. We need, I tried to look up the ordinance on the computer and failed miserably at that. I do know Fowler, Indiana has a ordinance. It has some teeth in it as far as fines.
Pun meant to be.
Pardon me?
Is that pun meant to be that?
It's got teeth in it. The dogs are all around.
Yeah. Yeah. I did bring one copy of Fowler's ordinance. Like I said, I couldn't find Lafayette's which I'm no computer whiz. But the woman that got attacked in Highland Park area, another one on North 13th. You know, it just seems like it's starting to snowball. And maybe it's just because it's starting to hit the papers and the TV. But, you know, it seems like the one on North 13th, according to Channel 18, the woman was taken to the hospital. And I haven't heard another thing about it. But TV 18 was there, and they didn't say the dog that bit the woman was in their film clip, but it appeared that this dog had a 3-4-year-old child riding it. And I just wanted to see if I could, you know, let's get the ball rolling. We don't want another Chicago, or at least I don't think we do. Everybody's working so hard to make this city better. And, you know, when you start having dogs that bite people, attack other dogs, like I said, if I could give this to somebody on the council.
Sure.
You'll take it.
2 comments, Dan. If you would check with the city clerk, she will tell you how to get a hold of that particular ordinance. The second part is that we are presently working, kind of taken this ball and gone with it, but we are presently working with an ordinance to, I could use your phrase, put some teeth in it.
Good, good.
But it's in the process.
Okay.
And we are very much aware of it as a city council and a mayor that
And I'm sure you've got lots of
things need...
Okay.
So it is in the process, and we feel just as you do.
Okay, good.
Definitely.
You know, I think it ought to be once and done on it.
I think that's about where we were going, if I remember properly, but we'll... Dog bite, and you got problems.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Yes, sir.
You better behave, it's the cops.
Good evening, Patrick Finley, Chief of Police. I'm not going to talk about mopeds or dogs, but we will have plenty of time to address several of those issues. One of the things that I did want to state real quick, and we'll have something more formal in the days coming, but I wanted to take a moment to recognize the Lafayette Police Department SWAT team. They just recently competed this weekend at the Indiana SWAT Challenge. It's something we compete in regularly. The Lafayette Police Department took first place this year. We also won 2 individual events and the first place overall. So just very proud of their accomplishment. Very difficult. They competed against 16 teams from around the Midwest. And this is the first time that we've won it. We've been knocking on the door for the last few years, but we broke through this year. So thank you.
Let's hope that they never have to show their expertise. But would the clerk then conduct, write a letter of commendation to the police department SWAT team for their accomplishment? And I think that there's something going on with the fire department, if I'm not mistaken. And if you would check on that as well and send a letter to that particular group. Yes, sir. Well, I guess he's going to say something.
What engineering do?
Richard Doyle, Fire Chief, Lafayette Fire Department. 2 things. Thanks for bringing it to everybody's attention. Our Fire Prevention Bureau won Fire Prevention of the Year for the state of Indiana, and they'll be recognized on the 18th at Station 5 at 6:30 in the evening. And also, we will be awarding 5 for the very first time, life-saving awards to 5 of our firefighters that pulled a young lady out of an apartment on Georgetown Apartments, July 10th. So we'll recognize them and some other individuals that same night.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That's the apartments, Mr. Heidi, that we were showing on the booth. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to invite each of you personally to join us for our ribbon cutting on Friday the 13th at 10:30. Veterans Memorial Parkway is finished. It's open 4 lanes, Concord to 52 now. So
wonderful. Congratulations to
Pink Walrus yogurt for the event.
Really?
It'll be a beautiful morning.
Will the 2:31 ribbon cutting be done by the time you?
That's at 9 o'clock, and I just heard about that on Friday. So
just keep going right around the corner. Excellent. Good
Thank
news. Things happen.
Any other comments by members of the audience? Mr. Heidi?
I move to adjourn.
Mr. Klinker?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Yep.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. There was something I wanted to say, but I
Holy. Bob, don't get away.